so excited for today's video because I'm finally sitting down and sharing my unmedicated birth story. I've been wanting to make this video for a while and I haven't gotten around to it, so let's just jump right in. A little bit of background: this was my first birth, and yes, I did do an unmedicated first birth, and this was about 5 months ago now. So I want to sit down and share the story while I still remember all the details. So without further ado, let's just get into my story. When I found out I was pregnant, I knew I wanted to try to do an unmedicated birth. Don't ask me why, I'm not sure. I've just always wanted to see if I could do it, if I'd be able to. And I'm really proud of myself. It was the hardest thing and the best thing that I've ever done. Leading up to going into labor, I didn't do too much crazy research. I think I just didn't want to have an expectation in my head of how this was gonna go. I just wanted to let my body take over and go from there. Two things I did that I think was really helpful leading up to it, and one of them during actual labor, that's hiring a doula. She helped answer a few of my questions, and really just having that emotional support leading up to labor, knowing I wasn't going to be alone, was really helpful. And then another thing I did throughout pregnancy is I watched a few videos from a girl on YouTube. Her handle is Built to Birth, and really she just encouraged me that my body was built for this and I could do it. And so I would definitely check out her videos if you're thinking about doing an unmedicated birth. Fast forward to the actual labor. So it was a few days past my due date, which those were the longest days of my life. But anywho, she came Monday, January 22nd, and Sunday night I started having mild contractions. I think I even told my husband I think I'm having contractions, but I didn't want to get in my head about it. I just wanted to ignore them because I heard so many stories of people going to the hospital early and being sent home, and that's the last thing I wanted. Oh yeah, by the way, I had an unmedicated hospital birth. Oh, my baby's waking up. I think I was at Sunday night. I started having mild contractions. I let my husband know, but I didn't really think too much of it because I didn't want to get to the hospital early. Yes, that's where I was. And so I went to bed. They just felt like period cramps coming and going, very mild, not painful at all. Monday, this is the story of when you were born. It is the best day ever. Monday morning I woke up and I was still having those contractions. My husband had already left for work, and so I don't know if I texted him. Did I text you when you were at work that I was still having them, or did I just text you like it's labor or baby time?
You texted me that you might be having contractions, or no, you texted me you're having contractions and I might need to come home soon.
Okay, so I think I woke up and just kind of had a normal morning. I was still having those mild contractions, so I texted my doula and I let her know, like, hey, these mild contractions started last night, I'm still having them, and I said, can I go on a walk? I'm a big walker, I love to walk, I really wanted to get my mind off of it. And I also just like had this feeling, I'm like, a walk, I'm like, if this is false labor, for some reason I told myself going on a walk would either stop the false labor, or if this is true labor, going on a walk is going to help get me in active labor. I don't know why I had that thought, I just did, and so I went with my gut. So I texted my doula, asked if I could go on a walk. She said absolutely, go for it. So I was doing my normal little walking route, and I got not even halfway into the walk and these contractions started picking up. They started getting closer in time and more intense. And so I downloaded a contraction app and I started timing them, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is happening. And so I called my husband. I'm like, don't worry, we still have a ways to go, but I'm in labor and come home from work. So my husband gets home and I'm laboring at home for a while. My doula came over and she brought a peanut ball for me to put in between my legs, and I really did not like that peanut ball. It made things get intense faster for some reason. I don't know the science behind the peanut ball. Maybe about 2 hours after like laboring on the couch and at home for a little bit with the peanut ball, we loaded up the car and we headed to the hospital. Let's just a little bit of timeline. Maybe I went on the walk around 9 a.m., labored at home. It was more than 2 hours because I don't think we got to the hospital until like 1 or 1:30. So by the time we got checked in and in our room, it's probably 2 o'clock. And I'm still moving through the contractions. They're getting a little more intense. And when they checked me the first time, right when I got to the hospital, I think I was only 4 centimeters dilated. And over the course of the next few hours, they just started getting more and more intense. The main thing that helped at the beginning, the first couple hours in the hospital, was hip squeezes. My husband would just put so much pressure on my hips. I had a lot of back labor, and so that was very helpful. And also just leaning forward and having my belly hang was really helpful for that back labor. Sometimes I was standing, leaning over. Sometimes I was on the bed on all fours. But the main thing this first couple hours was hip squeezes. And also when that contraction started, I needed the room silence. I felt so bad because a contraction would start and it'd be my doula, my husband, a nurse sometimes. Yeah, a nurse sometimes. And I would say, okay, it's starting. And they learned quickly when I said it's starting, that meant like, stop talking. I need silence. Her dad's gonna hold her for a little bit so I can get through the story. So hip squeezes helped the first little part of the hospital portion of labor. Then things started really picking up and it was really painful. But I think something else that helped me get through this was I didn't have an expectation for the pain. I just knew it was gonna get really bad, and that did help me. When it started picking up, my doula had a fan that I would just hold, and that was really helpful because I was so hot. I could not get cool enough. So I'm holding a fan that was helpful, and I really needed cold rags. I'm not sure why, I just needed so many cold rags. My husband was constantly just getting me another cold rag. So I would have these ice cold rags in my hands, all around my neck, on my head, and they'd be like, do you need anything? And I would say, a cold rag. And by the end of labor, I probably had like 50 cold rags all around me. It was really funny looking back on it.
Yeah, because I would give you one, and you would hoard it underneath you, and so every now and then, if I saw one, I would snag it out of there.
I was just so hot. Yeah, I was just so hot. I just needed really cold rags. Can I rewind for a little bit and say, when labor got intense, I could not think about drinking or eating anything. So that's something I would do different next time, is when I was at home and when things were still chill, I wasn't hungry because I had just had breakfast, but I would have made sure I would have chugged some water and forced myself to have another snack or something, because I did not have anything else since breakfast that day around probably 8 o'clock before my walk. At the hospital and the rest of the day, I did not eat or drink until after my baby was born. Spoiler, she was born at 10 p.m. So that's what I would do differently, but it's really hard. It's like I remember thinking, like, oh, I need to drink water. Oh, I need to use the restroom. Like I wanted to do all these things throughout labor, but when you're in labor, it's so hard to remember that stuff. I was just thinking about like surviving that contraction. So that's another thing I would do differently, is writing out a list of the things I want to do during labor and giving it to my husband and saying like, hey, look at this list. Remind me to try to go use the restroom between contractions to let anything out of my bladder and yada, yada, yada. Back to the intense part, when I had my fan, I had my cold rags, my water still had not broke. And so the doctor came in and checked me. I was 6 or 7 centimeters dilated at that point. Water had not broke, and I said, please break my water. Because my doula told me sometimes if they go in and break your water, that will help progress labor. It's not promised, but sometimes that does happen. And it was just so painful. I'm like, it's worth like taking this chance, because I don't want to sit here at a 7 centimeter and not progress for like 5 hours. Please break my water and let's get this show on the road. So that's what they did. And no, the doctor breaking my water did not hurt at all. I don't know if there was any pain, but if there was, the pain of the contractions covered it up. So the doctor broke my water, and at that point my baby's head was so low, there was like no gush of water or anything. Once I started pushing, I think like that water started coming out. So my doctor broke my water, and I just kept laboring for another like hour or two. Oh my goodness, time. What was time? And I don't really have too much crazy advice on how to get through an unmedicated labor other than your body was built for this and just breathing. It's the most painful thing. My labor I felt like was long, but I've heard of people being in labor for days. And I just kept telling myself I just have to survive that contraction. I had the most amazing people with me. My sweet husband, my amazing doula, and a nurse. The nurse in the hospital that was assigned to me was a godsend, truly. That's a story for another day. But she was amazing, and I really don't think I could have done it without them. That's it. I basically just had to survive contraction after contraction after contraction for hours until it was right around 9 p.m. The doctor came in and said, okay, let's start trying to push. They checked me and I was ready, and they said, let's do some practice pushes. And so I started doing some practice pushes, and I didn't know, I'm like, am I doing this right? I remember saying that. I remember asking, like, am I pushing right? Like, I don't know like what to do. I didn't necessarily like have the urge to push until I started pushing. So a contraction would come, the doctor would count down and say push. And once I started pushing, I remember my body just wanted to push. Like the doctor would count to 10 for 3 sets of pushes, but my body always went into another 1 to 2 pushes after the doctor said like, okay, I could stop. My body just like kept pushing. So I let it, and I just like would push with my body and like dive deep into that pain, because I knew I had to go there. I had to go to that painful spot in order to meet my baby. So I just let my body go there, and it hurt. So I pushed for about an hour. It was not fun. It was very painful, but I didn't tear. So that was a huge blessing. And right at 10 o'clock, it was actually 9:57, I think. I should probably know that. Right around 10 o'clock, my baby came into this world, and that final push was amazing. Like, I love that final push so much. Like the feeling of your baby coming out and that release of pressure was just so amazing. I can't wait to hopefully experience it again. Come join, fam. Scooch over. I don't know if you're in this. This is my husband, Matt, and our sweet daughter, Honey. Oh, I got in the shower at one point during the labor. Remember? Mm-hmm. I did not like the shower, but also the hospital shower was freezing cold.
Yeah, they didn't have hot water.
Yeah. I said, get me out of here.
Which is crazy because it's a very nice hospital.
So my tips on surviving an unmedicated birth is taking it 1 contraction at a time, staying cool, and just not having an expectation on how your birth is going to go, but just allowing your body to do its thing. I think it's the best thing you can do.
If you want to do an unmedicated birth, like, it's doable.
It is so doable. Yeah. Yes. He messes with me and says I'm a baby, but I'm a baby about like bugs. Like, I don't pick up bugs.
I didn't think you were that tough either.
But
I thought you were a weenie, but
tough.
You were tough.
Yes. So if I can have an unmedicated birth, you can have an unmedicated birth. I don't know if this video was encouraging. If you're pregnant out there, you've got this, mama. You can so do it. Just remember, your body was built to birth.
I'm Honey, and that's the story of my birthday. Subscribe to the channel. Bye.